Welcome along to the Deep Dive. We find intriguing sources and really try to unpack the core insights. And today we're looking at some, well, pretty profound theological concepts.
Definitely.
Our goal here is to explore ideas about God, existence, time, things that might stretch how you usually think about them.
Yeah, these aren't your everyday interpretations. The sources we're drawing from offer a perspective that can be genuinely mind-bending, quite distinct.
Okay, let's dive right in. The first big theme is this idea of the uncontainable God.
Right.
The core concept is simple but huge. God is everything, and crucially, space and time can't actually contain him.
That's the foundation.
You see hints of this in Scripture, like 2 Chronicles asking who can possibly build a house for God when even the heaven of heavens cannot contain him.
Exactly. And Acts echoes that God, the Creator, does not dwell in temples made with hands. It's fundamental.
So it's not just big, it's beyond measure.
Precisely. The sources stress that immensity. Even the heavens of heavens, the highest conceivable reality, isn't enough. The really key insight is that all of space-time, everything we know, exists within God.
Not the other way around.
Not the other way around. He contains reality. Reality doesn't contain him. Isaiah puts it quite poetically. Entire nations are like a drop from a bucket or just a speck of dust from God's vantage point.
That's humbling, isn't it? If entire universes, whole nations are almost negligible to God, what does that mean for how you perceive things, your own scale in the cosmos?
It naturally leads to the next question. How can we, as finite beings, relate to something so infinite?
Right. How do we bridge that gap?
Well, the sources are clear. We can only know God as much as he chooses to reveal. Our own efforts, our intellect, can't fully grasp him.
We can't reach up and figure him out on our own.
No, and Acts points out he doesn't need anything from us. He gives life, breath, everything. He provides for all.
And that idea gets even deeper with Acts 17.28. In him we live and move and have our being. Our actual existence is inside this uncontainable God. So if he's that vast, that fundamentally unknowable in his fullness, how is interaction even possible according to these texts?
Okay, this is where the sources introduce a really vital concept. The second God, or the second being within the Godhead.
Okay.
The explanation given is that this second being consciously emptied himself, chose to become a creature.
To bridge that infinite gap.
Yes, precisely. It's presented as the way creatures could encounter God directly without being, well, consumed or destroyed by that infinite nature.
Divine interface, almost.
You could say that. Yeah, and importantly, texts like Colossians and Hebrews are cited to show this second God is also the one actively sustaining all things, space-time itself. He holds it all together.
So an uncontainable God who contains everything, makes himself known, and sustains reality through this second being. Okay, now let's turn to something really intricate.
The existence and non-existence idea.
Yes. The sources propose that non-existence isn't some void outside of God. It's actually always within him.
Right, and he can call things from that state into existence.
It makes Jesus' statement in Luke, God is the God of the living, not the dead, really interesting. The sources offer 2 ways to read that.
They do. The first interpretation is that, well, everyone is considered alive in some sense to God until they completely return to that state of non-existence.
Which the sources call the second death.
Exactly, happening after the final judgment, the Great White Throne judgment. So there's a kind of continuity until that point.
Okay. And the second interpretation?
The second view is more about a spiritual state. It suggests that only those who align themselves with God, who obey him, are truly considered alive by him now.
So those destined for destruction, the lake of fire, are already viewed as dead by God, even while they're physically walking around.
That's the idea. It's about God's perspective on their ultimate state.
These sources also mention this concept of sleep after physical death, don't they? A waiting period before judgment fully unfolds.
Yes, they clarify that the full judgment process doesn't really kick off until what's termed the first resurrection.
That's for those who confirm the commandments.
Correct. And they then reign for 1,000 years before the wider judgment. There's a specific sequence.
And they give an example of this waiting, right? With David.
Yes. Citing Acts to point out that King David hasn't ascended to heaven yet, only Jesus has. It illustrates that people are, in a sense, waiting.
So putting it all together, we've touched on a divine perspective that's just vast. An uncontainable God who contains all, interacts through a second being, and views existence, Non-existence, life and death on a timescale and framework very different from ours.
It really challenges our everyday assumptions about reality, which leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to take away. How might really contemplating this infinite nature of God, his unique perspective on what it means to exist or not exist, how might that start to reshape your own view of reality? What new questions does it stir up in you about your own place in all this vastness?